Hello everyone. Welcome to Harmony with the Universe by Fuji. Today, based on Japanese Cosmic Synchro Navi channel, I'll share a surprising story about how what we've always believed about ourselves might not be true. Let's understand our true selves, free ourselves from all worries, and regain peace of mind. I've included a link to the original Japanese video in the description. Let me summarize and translate the content for you. Today, I'd like to share a fascinating story that could fundamentally change your life. First, I want to ask you something. Do you truly know yourself? Few people can immediately answer yes to this question. But don't worry, that's perfectly natural. This is because most of us live our lives without ever having the opportunity to deeply contemplate who we really are. After hearing today's message, something might change within you. Perhaps everything you've believed until now might be overturned. But this isn't something to fear. Rather, it's the first step toward liberation. Let's proceed with some concrete examples. This is the story of a 38-year-old woman. She was undergoing fertility treatment because she wanted a child. Despite hating injections, she endured them because of her desire for a child. Some of you might have had similar experiences. When we strongly desire something, we sometimes end up causing ourselves suffering. This woman was struggling with whether to continue the treatment. She was torn between wanting to quit because it was painful and wanting to continue because she wanted a child. Here's a question for everyone. Which of these two conflicting feelings do you think is the true feeling? Many people would answer that both are true feelings. Then why do two contradictory feelings exist simultaneously? This is actually a crucial point. Our emotions and thoughts are never consistent. Rather, they're constantly changing depending on the circumstances. You might be full of motivation in the morning, but want to quit by evening. Are these emotions and thoughts really yours? Surprisingly, they're not. These emotions and thoughts are merely reactions, triggered by external stimuli and past experiences. Let's consider the case of the woman mentioned earlier. After much self-reflection, she realized she didn't actually want a child right away. This realization reduced her stress. However, a few days later, when told at the hospital that her ovarian development wasn't good, she suddenly became anxious, and her desire to have a child intensified. Why did this happen? It was because she was suggested that she might not be able to have children. This is what psychology calls the principle of scarcity. People tend to place higher value on things when they perceive them as becoming unavailable or limited. So was her desire to have a child truly her own feeling? Or was it merely a psychological reaction? This is how our emotions and thoughts are heavily influenced by external factors. Yet we convince ourselves that these are our true feelings. Let me give you another example. Imagine inviting a small child to a restaurant. At first, the child says they don't want to go. But when you mention there are pancakes they like, they suddenly want to go. What about adults? When adults say they don't want to go, they rarely change their minds. They might even try to firmly defend that feeling. But think about it. Whether it's a child or an adult, are these feelings truly their own? Or are they simply reactions to external stimuli? In fact, everything we think of as our feelings and thoughts are merely reactions arising from external factors and past experiences. This is an extremely important point, and understanding it can free you from all worries. When you feel anger, sadness, or anxiety, it's not you feeling these emotions. They're just reactions. Naturally, many people might be confused at this point. You might wonder who you are, if your feelings and thoughts aren't really yours. Actually, this very question opens the door to true self-understanding. Think about it for a moment. Can you control your body? For instance, can you consciously change your blood flow or stop cell division? You can't, right? Also, while you're sleeping, you have no consciousness, yet your body continues to function. So who are you during those times? When we think about it this way, we begin to understand that what we call I is merely a phenomenon arising from various combined factors. This isn't a pessimistic view at all. Rather, it's a perspective that brings great freedom. Because by being liberated from the fixed concept of I, we become open to all possibilities. We can free ourselves from limitations like, I can't do this. Or, I'm this kind of person. Let's dig a bit deeper. We experience countless emotions and thoughts daily. Joy, anger, sadness, anxiety, expectation, disappointment. And we act based on these emotions and thoughts. For example, imagine seeing litter on the street while walking. Most people would think it's dirty. Did you consciously choose to feel this emotion of disgust? Or did it arise automatically? Most people would probably answer the latter. In other words, this emotion is an automatic response to external stimuli. So where does this response come from? It's created by a complex combination of your past experiences, learning, and cultural background. Someone raised in a clean environment might show stronger aversion to litter. On the other hand, someone concerned about environmental issues might feel sadness or anger when seeing litter. In other words, the emotions and thoughts we have every day arise automatically from various factors, independent of our will. This becomes easier to understand when we consider how the human brain works. According to neuroscience research, our conscious thoughts and judgments are merely the results of unconscious processes. For instance, in one experiment, subjects were asked to make simple choices and explain their reasons for those choices. Interestingly, while the subjects explained their choices logically, their choices were actually influenced by unconscious biases. In other words, we're merely providing post hoc explanations for our thoughts and actions. This raises questions about our concept of free will. If our thoughts and feelings are merely the result of external factors and past experiences, does true free will exist? This is a topic debated among philosophers and scientists. However, what's important is that considering this question itself helps deepen our self-understanding. Now, how do you feel after hearing all this? Are you confused? Or have you had some new insights? If you're feeling confused, that's a good sign. Because confusion is the first step toward new understanding. There's always a period of confusion, when old ways of thinking break down and new perspectives emerge. And if you've had new insights, that's evidence of your growth. So how can we apply this understanding in our daily lives? Let's start by observing our emotions and thoughts. When anger, anxiety, joy, or sadness arise, instead of thinking, "This is my emotion," try observing objectively that anger is arising now. This will help you become less controlled by emotions. When we think, "I am angry," we tend to become one with that anger. But if we view it as anger is arising, we can take a step back from that emotion. Also, pay attention to your thought patterns. When negative thoughts arise like, "I'm no good," or "I have no talent," don't accept them as truth, but observe that such thoughts are arising. This practice aligns with the basic principles of mindfulness and meditation. These practices emphasize observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment. For example, during meditation, if anxious thoughts arise, instead of suppressing them or becoming absorbed in them, you simply acknowledge their presence and watch them pass like clouds in the sky. By bringing this practice into daily life, you'll become less controlled by emotions and thoughts, and you'll be able to live your life more freely and imaginatively. Of course, this isn't easy, and letting go of the concept of self that you've built up over years is challenging. But it's well worth doing, because this understanding has the potential to free you from all worries. You can be liberated from limitations like, "I must do this," or "I can't do this." Let's return to the example of the woman undergoing fertility treatment. When she was trapped by her desire to have a child, she believed that desire was truly her own. and she was suffering because that desire wasn't being fulfilled. But what if she could see this desire not as her true feeling, but as a phenomenon occurring in the present? She would probably be able to distance herself somewhat from that suffering. Instead of being controlled by the desire for a child, she might be able to view that desire objectively. This could allow her to examine her situation more calmly. Does she really need a child right now? Or is she just trying to respond to social pressure and others' expectations? Or is she trying to fulfill some other desire by having a child? By objectifying our emotions and thoughts this way, deeper self-understanding becomes possible. And based on this understanding, we can make freer choices. Of course, this understanding can bring significant changes, not just in matters of parenting and family planning, but in all aspects of life, including work, relationships, hobbies, and lifestyle. For example, when you make a big mistake at work, many people tend to get caught up in thoughts like, "I'm worthless," or "I'll never succeed again." However, these thoughts too are merely reactions. Failure is simply an event that occurred. It doesn't define who you are. You can learn from failure and apply those lessons to the future. The same applies to relationships. When you feel strong aversion or anger towards someone, that emotion is not you. It's just a reaction arising in that situation. This understanding might help improve relationships with others, because you can consider the other person's perspective, without being controlled by your emotions. Furthermore, this way of thinking can greatly impact our sense of happiness. Many people tend to think they'll be happy or satisfied once they obtain something. However, this thinking itself is merely a reaction, formed by external factors and past experiences. True happiness isn't brought about by external conditions. It comes from living fully in this moment and from deeply understanding yourself. Cherishing the present moment, not being trapped by the past, not fearing the future, but living fully in this moment. This is deeply connected to the concept of self we've been discussing. Not being bound by the concept of self formed from past experiences, but living fully in this moment. This leads to true freedom and happiness. However, it's important to note that this understanding doesn't recommend feeling nothing or thinking nothing. Emotions and thoughts play crucial roles in living as human beings. Joy, sadness, anger, and anxiety. These emotions are essential for our survival and social life. Similarly, thoughts are the source of our problem-solving abilities and imagination. Thoughts are indispensable for solving complex problems and generating new ideas. What's important is not being controlled by these emotions and thoughts. It's about maintaining an objective observational attitude, without identifying them as yourself. Finding this balance isn't easy. It's a lifelong practice and learning process. If you revert to old habits, you can simply return to the observational attitude. Today's message contains very deep content, so it might be difficult to understand everything at once. This is like a journey of exploration that takes a lifetime. It's okay if you face difficulties and obstacles along the way, or if you temporarily return to old habits and beliefs. Let's gradually internalize this understanding and develop a habit of observing your emotions and thoughts in daily life. When this becomes a habit, you might experience major changes in your life. You might have fewer worries and be able to live more freely and imaginatively. However, there's one point of caution here. This understanding can sometimes be misinterpreted, but we must not misunderstand. For instance, some might conclude that because everything is just a reaction, they can do anything they want. This is a major mistake. We live in society. It's inevitable that our actions affect others. Therefore, this understanding actually places a greater responsibility on us. Precisely because we're not controlled by our emotions and thoughts, we can act more calmly and thoughtfully. Also, this understanding doesn't deny emotions. Joy, sadness, anger, and anxiety. These emotions are proof of our humanity and essential for a rich life. What's important is fully feeling these emotions while not being bound by them. It's about observing, understanding, and appropriately expressing emotions. Finally, it's okay if you face difficulties and obstacles along this journey of understanding. Or if you temporarily return to old habits and beliefs. What's important is returning to an observational attitude when you notice it. And continuing to move forward, even if just a little bit at a time. That concludes the summary of the video content. When I worked at a restaurant, I once broke 10 plates at once. Also, I was blamed by a colleague when she dropped and broke something because of how I had placed items. In these situations, I felt very down. But I think if I had heard today's message then, I wouldn't have felt so discouraged. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to the channel. Also, please share your thoughts in the comments section about how this message made you feel. I hope today's message helps bring a new perspective to your life. I'll see you in the next video. Have a nice day filled with love and light.